What's good, Dark Knights? It's your boy Zay coming to you with another video. And in this video, we're going to talk about why does Christian art now suck? Before we talk about that, we have to first be able to answer how art is viewed through Christians back then and now. And I'm going to try to keep it kind of short and sum it up. People probably have done like long form content about Christianity and how they viewed art and the history of it. So I'm not going to get too deep into it right now. I probably would later in the video or maybe in another video or something. But right now, no, I'm not going to do that. So in the Christian world space, for throughout years, it has been a contentious kind of thing of, is it idolatry? Is it not idolatry? And even still to this day, some pastors kind of preach this idea that art is, idolatry. As if you see an image of something, you just instantly start bowing down and worshiping it. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that it violates the second commandment, because people are not worshiping the image, like how the people back then in the pagan days, I mean, look at any Christian now who will look at any bodies of work of art, even if it is Greek gods or anything like that. Do you just automatically start bowing down and praising it? No, you don't. You just look at it, you admire the work, but you don't just go instantly down to bowing down to it and worship it and treat it as God. No. It's not how you interact with art. It's not how you view the art. You don't view the art as a god. You view the art as the art itself. Now, I know the first argument that is usually said about this is Exodus 24, right? And so they'll be like, well, it's in the Bible. It does say that you shall not have a graven image of another god, anything in heaven, on earth, or in the sea, right? I mean, that's pretty clear sound, right? Wrong. It's wrong because they don't read it in context. The context is, you shall not make an image that you may bow down to, meaning have no other gods before God himself. You should not worship no other gods because he is a jealous God and does not tolerate your affections for other gods. That is the part they leave out. They only say the part of, you shall not have a graven image of any kind, whether in heaven, or on earth, or in the sea. That is the part that they forget out, the whole entire context. A lot of people misinterpret the Bible, or they use the scripture wrong because they don't use it in context. It's just one little phrase, and they roll with that, and that is it. But you have to use things in context in order to get the understanding of the whole picture of it. And even if you wanted to use the second commandment as the end-all be-all, I think that there would be very big problems in the scriptures later down in Exodus, especially Exodus 37, 2 through 9, where God literally tells Moses to construct the Ark of the Covenant. If God didn't want anyone to construct an image at all, he would be quite literally contradicting himself in the scriptures. So the object of the Ark of the Covenant wasn't the thing that people were bowing down to either. It was a connection, sure, to God, but through worship, but it itself wasn't the item or the object of worship. God was ultimately the object of worship. They didn't put the Ark of the Covenant at such a high standard over God. It was just a means of worship or connection to God that God constructed them to in the Bible. So if you wanted to use the second commandment for that as the argument, as the end-all be-all, then it would contradict the scriptures later down in the line, literally, in the very same book, Exodus. So, and this type of thought still comes out in the modern day from pastors, some pastors. I wouldn't say all pastors, but definitely from some pastors, that art is idolatrous and is breaking the second commandment. And most likely these very same pastors are the people telling this to the person who is a Christian and wants to be an artist. But they struggle between, okay, is this work idolatrous? Is this breaking God's commandments? And so they end up either not doing it. And the only way that pastors recognize art, not all of them, again, some of the pastors that do think that art is idolatrous, the only way they recognize it as not idolatrous is if it comes down to worship music. That's it. Singing and being on the church choir. That's it. That's literally it. Anything outside of that, it is going to be considered idolatrous to them in their mind. And it really sucks because these Christians want to be real, like, big artists, and they just end up getting shut down because some pastor is misusing the scripture and not using it in its context, and then trying to stop the artist from becoming something that God's called them to do. Be an artist, impact people. That's what art does. It impacts people. A lot of people try to talk down on art and say that art is useless. No, it has a very big effect on people, not only psychologically, mentally. It challenges you. That's what art is meant to do. Challenge the person viewing it, looking at it, listening to it. That's what art does. That's the beauty of art. It's not only just for you to enamor at it and look at its beauty depending on what it is, but it's also there to make you look at yourself, reflect about life, other people. That's what good art does. Whenever art loses those elements, it's just a thing. Nothing more, nothing less. There's nothing special about it. That's why a lot of people don't, in the modern age, that's why a lot of people don't like modern art now. You know why? Because people who are artists get away with just spouting a paint splatter on a thing and sell it for $1 million. And it's not art. I'm sorry, it's not art. It's trash, it's terrible. No one likes that. Only the rich people buy it, but rich people a lot of times don't have taste. Not the rich people, but the really, 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 really rich people. They do it to make themselves seem cool, like, oh, I bought this big painting. But no, they're just out of touch. They have so much money and so, like, disconnect from the real world at this point. It feels like that they don't understand, like, really what's cool. But I mean, we're all going to get to that some point, at least, where we're getting older, and then we're not going to understand the youth to a degree, at least. But they're kind of out of in their own little world of out of touch with, like, the rest of the world, if I want to be honest with you. Now, before we get to the next section, I do want to remind you guys, this is a Christian talking about Christian art. So I understand from the space of a Christian, because I'm a Christian. So let's talk about mediocrity. Whew. Wow. Do I really need to talk about that when it comes to Christian art now? A lot of it is so boring, so bland, and uninteresting. You literally just check out before you even try to give it a thought. I'm gonna be honest with you. You do. Because it's not interesting. You don't care about what they're doing because it's almost weird the way that it is, because you either get this picture perfect, everything is squeaky clean image from a Christian, or you just have scriptures put up on something, and that's it. That's Christian art. That's Christian art when it comes to art. Not as far as in music. Music is a different thing. I have my own little, I guess, like, thing for music and Christian music. I wouldn't say I'm really a fan of more newer Christian music, but I am a fan of, like, you know, the archives, like never would have made it without you. You know, the little Jane, your little grandma used to be singing. You know what I'm saying? She used to be playing that joint in the house. Yeah, that. So, nah, bro, a lot of Christian music, I don't really know what I can really say about it, because it would be pretty hypocritical for me to kind of say I don't like it because it doesn't feel normal, like, but at the same time, I do want Christian art to become culturally cool without tainting or diluting the message, but however, do it in a tasteful way. There's people, oh my gosh, don't get me started. Christians are so concerned with making the message as clear cut as possible, meaning they don't want you to miss a single, they don't want you to not be able to understand the message. They will shove it down your face so you understand.
My boyfriend has been playing Call of Dragons like
clearly.
crazy. He joined the humans with a gather speed bonus.
It's bad. Art is meant to be subtle, much more subtle. It's meant to be a onion, if you will, a layer peeling. You just peel back, and then it gets deeper and deeper. That's what makes a lot of good movies and good art good. Just be honest with you, good, because it has a deep nature to it. It's something that it just reveals. The more that you kind of sit and study and observe it, the more you reveal, it gets revealed to you. Like, dang, that's really crazy that's like that. But yeah, I can't really speak too much on Christian music because I feel like it'd be kind of hypocritical for me to talk about Christian music. However, I can talk about Christian art, paintings, and clothing brands and stuff like that. This is probably what I've been really talking about. It is so uninteresting to me, and most Christians do the same exact thing. Again, they put an image of Jesus, they put something cheesy and corny. I seen one of these images, it was a shirt. It said something like ketchup with Jesus. It is so bad that it's actually hilarious. Actually, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Some of the Christian shirts or the clothing brands are actually so bad that in an ironic way they're funny and cool, but it's not meant to be like that. It's meant to be like, oh, this is supposed to be funny, like ha ha ha, I don't know, but it's just genuinely so bad, bro. Like, I would never want to wear that unless it's in an ironic, like, fashion way. But yeah, and when it comes to paintings and stuff like that, everything is rainbows and sunshines. There's nothing ever depicted like the real world. Like, there's literally no depictions of anything dark, gruesome, or anything like that. As if Christians don't go through this all the time, whether it be with their friends, their families, the world in general, people who they don't know. They act as if we Christians don't go through the same thing that everyone else does, as if we see the world as just sunshine and rainbows. That's not true. We see the world just as everyone else does. It's a pretty messed up place. God created a beautiful place, but we humans messed that up because of our sinful nature and our desire for our own selfish desires, really. We mess up a lot of things due to our own selfish desires. So, but yeah, a lot of Christian art is very mid, very uninteresting, very boring, and very bland. I think that Christians need to step it up. We as Christians need to step it up in our art, paintings, music, anything. One thing I can actually give us, though, at least now, is that we are slowly starting to get better content creators like Ruslan and Kenham. I heard about him, and well, he isn't really a content creator, if we want to be honest with you, but Ruslan would be one of them. You have some of the people like Mike Winger, some of the people who calls out like other people's false doctrine and, you know, tries to teach people about scriptures and stuff like that. But yeah, Christian spaces are starting to become a little bit more recognizable as far as the YouTube side is, and I mean, I think it's a cool thing. Education is a dope thing. But now that we got that part out of the way, let's talk about the next segment, and that is utilitarianism in Christian art. Again, this thing was talked about in the video. Hopefully I put it in the description and I didn't forget it. But Christians treat art as another sermon, and art isn't good for a sermon. Art is meant to be out there, for the lack of a better word, out there. It isn't meant to be confined into something necessarily. Yes, art does have a structure to it, unless it becomes a madman of art. But most art is pretty much willy-nilly and is everywhere. There's nothing really that can constrain art, because it is almost, if I would even say, the ultimate form of a creation coming from a creator. It's a person creating something from their image, their thought. It's interesting. It's pretty interesting. How art is, what it even means, and what it represents. But back to what I was saying. Christians treat art like a sermon. Their mindset is, how can I get the gospel out to as many people as possible? And there's nothing else that's important. So a lot of times, the majority of the craft doesn't actually go into the art, which is supposed to make the impact, by the way. It actually just goes into simply just the message. That's it. Nothing good about the craft. The craft is most likely mediocre, or if not trash or corny or cheesy. And they're fine with that because the gospel message is going out. That's all they care about. If I can save one person, then it's fine. That's kind of the mindset of when it comes to how Christians nowadays treat art. It's not meant to be treated as a pulpit. You can't treat it as a pulpit. Yes, you can teach lessons morally and all that stuff, but you can't just be directly on the nose with it. You have to be much more subtle with it than what you would at a church, where you can be direct and in your face about the message. Hey, this is what this says, yada yada yada. This is what this says, this is what this says. Get right with this, yada yada yada. This and that, so on and so forth. You can't do that with art, unfortunately. It doesn't work like that. Now we're going to go into the next topic. And the next problem is its relatability to people. And this is going to specifically go to, again, paintings and like clothing, because you can relate to the music side of it. If I want to be able to break down in a nutshell, Christian art is, I was this person, God changed my life, and now I'm a Christian and following Jesus, and don't do that stuff no more. Like, you can break that down like pretty much in any Christian life. I used to be this type of person, God changed me. Even the same thing with me. I was this person, God changed me. Now I don't do those things no more. Consider those evil. I follow God. And it's very relatable because you go through the person's dark side and dark history, whether it be, paraphernalia, women, men, anything. You can relate to it. That's something you can relate to. However, when it comes to the paintings and clothing and stuff like that, you then take a stoop down because it's very unrelatable. Again, when it comes to Christian paintings and stuff like that, a lot of it's just a very squeaky clean image. You have a picture of a Jesus smiling, having his hands out with like rainbows in the background, and like light is emanating from his face. And like I said, a lot of the image is pretty much the theology there, and that's kind of how it's been through Christian history. But like I said, it's very uninteresting. But at least the way that they do it, I wouldn't say it was very uninteresting back then, because it was very interesting back then. I mean, just look at those amazing paintings by the church. It's just phenomenal. You guys, phenomenal. Versus now, it's just like, throw an image of a Jesus smiling in heaven and you're good to go. That's Christian art for you now, as far as paintings. Now, when it comes to clothing, again, unrelatable. If your goal is, as a Christian, if you want to go the utilitarian route, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but I just don't think that it's very beneficial in the long run, because you aren't caring about the craft, you're just caring about the message, which is an important message. But when it comes to the art, you have to be able to form the message in a different way, in a much more subtle way. But the clothing is usually a scripture, or they'll have some type of cheesy thing. I'll pop up some images of what I'm talking about, because you'll see what I mean by it's cheesy and corny. Like, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And like I said, the clothing is so bad that it's ironically good. Like, it's ironically good because it's that bad. Like, you would never wear it out on some daily type of stuff, but you would pop it out here and there just for laughs and giggles type stuff. And I don't know, it's pretty crazy. Something interesting actually is that Christians are kind of starting to get into streetwear now, when, you know, it's kind of very old if you ask me. Yeah, it's the Christian church is so behind when it comes to the art space, and Christians need to be able to support each other more. And I know it's very hard because, like I said, you know, without me trying to sound like a hypocrite, a lot of Christian art is bad. It's like, why would I want to spend my hard-earned money for this if it's trash? Like, it's just wasting my money. You know what I mean? So, but back to what I was saying. A lot of the Christian clothing has like just like a scripture on it, and they call it a day, or Jesus, I love Jesus, or God is my protector, or in God I trust. You know, something like that. And so if I'm a person who doesn't even believe in Jesus, who doesn't follow Christianity, who doesn't follow any belief system other than my own, why the heck would I want to buy this and represent this? It doesn't make any sense to me at all for me to buy this. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna think it's not for me, and therefore the person that you're trying to seek out for the message, you're gonna be that's gonna be this very same person not interested in your piece. Because why would they wear something that represents something that they clearly don't believe in? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It would be the same thing as an atheist wearing a t-shirt that says Jesus
My
is
boyfriend
God.
has been playing Call
like,
of Dragons
obviously,
like crazy.
you know, the
He
atheist
joined the
doesn't
humans with a
believe
gather speed
that,
bonus.
actually. So why in the world would you think that they would want to wear that if this is the person that you want to reach out to? But yeah, it just doesn't make sense, because the very same people you want to reach out to, people who are not Christians, are the very same people who turned away from your stuff because it represents something. I mean, it's kind of so obvious and that of what it represents that it's kind of a turn off. It's like, ugh, why would I want to wear this? I don't represent this. And, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm spouting the same idea, the same thing, but geez, come on, like, step it up, you guys, Christians, step it up, do better. You know what? I got a better one. Name a few Christian painters who are famous in the modern day era, or Christian clothing brands or designers in the modern day era. And as a painter, you can't use Bob Ross because everyone knows Bob Ross. So name a couple. And if you do, I would be actually surprised, because a lot of Christian artists, I don't even know who they are. I really couldn't tell you, and I'm sure there's lots of Christian artists now, but I can't name one that's on top, or that you can say is running anything when it comes to the art space or the entertainment space. Well, maybe a little bit on the entertainment space, but the art space, the art scene, matter of fact, you can't say anything. They can't compete with none of the designers, not even the much more smaller designers like Coach, or I wouldn't say Chanel, because Chanel still is very big, but like, you know what I mean, like Tiffany and Co. Like what Christian clothing brand or designer or artist is coming and competing with just your average or even below average brands that aren't Christians? Hey, I mean, leave me down in the comments. This is not a hate video. This is just kind of me pointing out a little bit of history of how Christians viewed art, a little bit of the problems with Christian art nowadays, and hopefully we can come with the solution. Hopefully that some Christian is able to break into mainstream and get mainstream notoriety around the world, and be able to of course share the gospel message out, but be able to do it in a tasteful way. And yeah, that's really that. And without further ado, I just want to say thank you guys for at least staying towards the end. Like and subscribe on the video. Share this out to people. You know, ask them, why does Christian art suck? And go check out that video that I linked in the description, hopefully. And without that being said, goodbye, Dark Knights.